Welcome to day 206. We're in Isaiah 48 through 52. Let's get at it. Hopefully you've started a timeline for end time events. If not, you need to do that. And I would put probably multiple papers together, not necessarily a timeline from beginning to end or whatever. I've started something like that, but you're going to need multiple papers by topic. So you'll need a paper for the rapture. You'll need a paper for the 7 years of tribulation that the Antichrist rules with 21 judgments that happen. So that'll have a lot of verses on it. And then you'll have the second coming of Christ. And that'll have quite a few verses on it. And then you'll have the 1,000-year reign. And then you'll have a new heaven and new earth. So those are the topics that you want to put these verses into. So I'll get to that in just a moment. All right, so you can pause that, go back and start your own list for those things. All right, so here we go. And we start out to today's reading chapter 48, but then we get into chapter 49, and that's all really about Jesus. Listen to me, all you in distant lands. Pay attention, you who are far away. The Lord called me before my birth. From within the womb, he called me by name. We're talking about Jesus. Okay? He made my words of judgment as sharp as a sword. Remember, Christ comes back and he lays waste to everybody because he has coming out of his mouth is a two-edged sword. So, and that's how he defeats his enemies, through truth and justice, and basically just annihilates them in a moment. Then I want to get to make sure another thing about making sure we understand that the salvation is for everyone. We look at verse 6. He says, "You will do more than restore the people of Israel to me. I will make you a light to the Gentiles, and you will bring my salvation to the ends of the earth." It's not just for the Israelites. It's for everyone. And I love that we keep finding those verses. I wish from the beginning, we would have made a list of those things. There's so many lists that we could make. So that's a cool thing. Just another thing to say that we are part of God's family. Okay, and verse 8, at just the right time. And I want to say something about that phrase, at the right time. God's time is perfect. At just the right time, I will respond to you. On the day of salvation, I will help you. I will protect you and give you to the people as my covenant with them. So he's giving Jesus to the people. Through you, I will reestablish the land of Israel and assign it to its own people again. All right. 49:16. See, I have written your name on the palms of my hands. Always in my mind is a picture of Jerusalem's walls and ruins. Soon your descendants will come back, and all who are trying to destroy you will go away. Okay, so soon they'll come back, and your enemies will be destroyed. Well, 2,300 years later, okay, and enemies have not been destroyed yet, but that's going to happen. Remember, soon is relative. God isn't bound by time, and soon doesn't mean in the next 10 minutes or next 10 years in our own version, okay? Then I mentioned something about Armageddon. Verse 26, I will feed your enemies with their own flesh. They will be drunk with rivers of their own blood. All the world will know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the Mighty One of Israel. Okay, that can only be talking about Armageddon, where Christ comes and lays waste to them, and the blood runs in a river 180 miles long, as high as a horse's bridle. That's in Revelation, and that can only be talking about that when the Savior and the Redeemer comes, and the whole world knows it at that point in time. That's at the end of Armageddon, the war. Okay, that's in a moment. All right, we've alluded to growth of the natural surroundings in the deserts in Israel and stuff. Those things are kind of beginning to happen, but here's a verse for it, 51:3. The Lord will comfort Israel again and have pity on her ruins. Her desert will blossom like Eden. Think about that. The deserts in Israel will blossom like Eden. I mean, that's just unimaginable. that something like that could happen. Getting growth in the desert is pretty difficult, but then having it grow like the Garden of Eden is going to be pretty amazing. Okay? I have here 51:11. Those who have been ransomed by the Lord will return. They will enter Jerusalem singing, crowned with everlasting joy. Sorrow and mourning will disappear, and they will be filled with joy and gladness. Okay, so I wanted to mention this because we're talking about, if you look at old video footage of May 15th, 1948, where the Jews were welcomed back they were heading back to their land. They were on the arms and shoulders of soldiers and other people, bringing them back to their land. What an awesome thought. This was written 700 years before Christ, and here we have a picture of that prophecy being fulfilled. No more trouble for Israel. When is that going to be? So on your timeline list, no more trouble for Israel. That would be when Christ's second coming happens. There's trouble for Israel all the way through the tribulation. But when Christ comes the second time, there'll be no more trouble for Israel. They won't be able to touch them. So that is 51:22. This is what the sovereign Lord, your God and defender, says. See, I have taken the terrible cup from your hands. You will drink no more of my fury. Instead, I will hand that cup to your tormentors, those who said, we will trample you into the dust and walk on your backs. What a great thing, God coming to fight for them. And then the last thing, everyone will see God's victory. This is the greatest part about this. 52:10, the Lord has demonstrated his holy power before the eyes of all the nations, whether it's by satellite TV, however God's going to make it so everyone sees it. He will demonstrate his holy power before the eyes of all the nations. All the ends of the earth will see the victory of our God. All the ends of the earth will see the victory of our God. Victory, that's the second coming. What an amazing, amazing thing. So you can have that in there on your timeline list. That's day 206. See you tomorrow.